From the league standpoint, what's developed on that? What's the next step going forward with that franchise?
Well, that's a good question. I don't actually know the answer to that. We've got some work to do over the next little while in working with the Calgary Flames to understand what their objectives are and what they would like to accomplish over the next next couple of years with their American League team. Clearly, in Abbotsford, the circumstances were we just weren't successful there. I think with the Calgary Flames team in the Vancouver Canucks backyard. Probably we were destined to have a tough time, but with a new building there, the city really needed an American League team, and Calgary was the only one available, and that's how it was born. But I think over time it was clearly financially a burden for the city of Abbotsford and a difficult environment for the Flames, and consequently they're moving on. But at this point we're not certain where they're going to move.
There's been a couple reports over the past 2-3 weeks now of some NHL teams wanting, some on the West Coast wanting their AHL affiliate closer. Is there any credence, any truth behind that? Is that something the league would consider? What's kind of the state of that right now?
There is a fair amount of truth behind it. At the same time, there's a lot of conjecture that isn't accurate. So when I look at the stories that we're seeing online and that my PR guy faithfully sends me to drive me crazy every day, we have been involved in a process over the last 2 years or so, with starting with 8 of the National Hockey League teams that are Western-based, moving down to about 5 of them that are active right now, who are looking to get closer, probably out to the Pacific Coast at some point. We've been really, recently it's heated up again, and we've been looking at sort of what the process will be and how it might take place and what the timelines might be. But we still haven't identified markets, neither have they, in terms of where they would like to place teams out on the West Coast, and we haven't really understood or figured out what the timeline is likely to be. So while I would say we're closer to it happening, we're not sure when it would happen, and to tell you the truth, we're not sure if it will happen. There are still a number of hurdles, and as you can imagine, to move, we're not going to create more American Hockey League franchises, so to relocate 5 of them at one time, or more than 5 perhaps, is a very significant challenge. So I'm not, I would say there's truth to some of the, there's truth, half-truths in some of those stories, and half wishful thinking in some of them, I think.
Do you think, kind of just circling back to Texas here, do you think some of those teams in the Pacific Coast have kind of liked what they see, what Dallas has had with having their AHL affiliate so close as opposed to some of the other teams?
Absolutely. I mean, and this is one example of how well it can work. There are other examples in the league, and if you look at Toronto Marlies and the Toronto Maple Leafs, and you look at the situation with the Providence Bruins and the Boston Bruins, we can go on and on. Moving the Flyers into Allentown, which is an hour and a half away from Philadelphia. It is an advantage, I think, or perceived to be a big advantage by a National Hockey League team to have their players close, and that's what's driving the Pacific Coast concept, I guess, and we're supportive of that. We're obviously willing to work and assist those West Coast teams in achieving their objectives. But as I said, it's going to be a challenging process to get it done, but over time, I think it probably will happen.
Do you feel like that moves the league more into a model like the ECHL, where they have more of a fragmented West only plays West, East only plays East type model?
Well, we're pretty fragmented right now. If you look at the way we handle our schedule, we still have rivalries being a key part of the way we set up our schedule format. Our travel, trying to keep our travel reasonable and affordable for our teams is important as well. So. None of our teams play all of the other teams, and some teams are even more restricted in terms of the number of teams they play. So I don't think that's going to make if we go west, that it's going to necessarily make us look like the ECHL. But I think we will always play a schedule that the NHL teams believe is best for their player development, and that our ownership believes is best for their business. And so every year when we look at where we're located and how we're regionally aligned, our schedule formats generally change to meet those criteria.
For the travel needs of a team like Texas, losing a team like Houston was a big hit, obviously. Do you see a future for the AHL in that Houston market?
I would love to say that we saw a future there. I think in order to do that, we need a facility that we can play in, and as I'm sure you know, leaving Houston wasn't high on our list of priorities. Houston was one of our most successful franchises in the league, and the 3 teams in Texas, Houston, and the Texas Stars and San Antonio have been really successful over the last number of years. So to lose what was one of our top franchises and move them out of Houston was not something that either the Minnesota Wild wanted to see happen or the American Hockey League. But we didn't control the building. The Houston Rockets do, and the Houston Rockets determined that they didn't want a professional hockey team in the building, and there was no other building. The Wild looked carefully for other sites that they might be able to use, including, I think, one of the rodeo facilities, and looking to try and retrofit that as a hockey arena, and it just wasn't viable. So would we like to be in Houston? If we could find a 7,000 or 8,000 seat building in Houston to play in, we sure would. It would be great for the Texas Stars, and be great for San Antonio as well. But I don't know that that's on the horizon.
It's easy to track the on-ice success from just to look at records and look what they've done in the past 5 years. But what are some of the things you've seen them do just to develop in this market? Some of the things that not on ice that this franchise has done in the past 5 years to kind of thrive like it has.
Well, I think the most important thing was Rick McLaughlin coming here as the president of the team to start with, and you need to get off on the right foot with a new building and a new franchise. And Rick and his experience and the staff that he put in place did it right, and they knew what they were doing. And I look now at the building. It's sold out here tonight. I look at the way the fan experience has been constructed here, even as simple as the presentations we made before the game tonight, and the quality of the videos, and you look around the building and people are having fun. And if people are coming and enjoying themselves in your building, and the fan experience is good, and they enjoy being around their the people that are in their section, and it's just a fun night out, then you've got a business that can be sustainable regardless of how often you win. And having a winning team is really kind of the icing on the cake.
When you look at an environment like this, do you feel like Cedar Park could serve as a viable future All-Star Game location?
Absolutely, and I think Rick would really like to have an All-Star Game.
The travel that you mentioned regarding East-West, the first round here for Texas is going to be a best-of-5 all across the league, but we're going to see the Texas Stars start on the road with 2 games against the Oklahoma City Barons. Can you talk a little bit about the decision to move to a best-of-5, and if you see in the future a best-of-7 being a possibility again?
Moving to the best-of-5 was a decision that was made based on, as you know, 2 or 3 years ago now, and I lose track of time, I'm so old. But 2 or 3 years ago, we reduced our schedule down to a 76-game schedule, and in doing so, we expanded the length of our regular season to try and recapture the revenue by getting more weekend dates. In doing that, we obviously pushed ourselves back further than we wanted to be from a playoff point of view. So the way to recapture that time was to go to a best-of-5 instead of a best-of-7 in the first round. If I were looking at what I think the future holds for us, I would believe that we may play shorter rounds in the playoffs in the future in the second, third, and I don't think you'll ever see it in the fourth round, and probably not the third. But I think there's some sense that a best-of-5 second round may make sense for us as well. We've had good success with the first round, playing mostly weekend dates, and playoff sales are tough. We don't have a whole lot of lead time to sell, and it's challenging for our teams. But I think less games and better dates is always a good format.
One last question: a lot has been made in the NHL of so-called advanced statistics and Corsi and Fenwick and all these sorts of things, and I think it's something that a lot of American Hockey League media folks and fans as well would really like to take advantage of. Is that something that you see being in the cards in the future for American Hockey League media and fans alike?
I think that's a great question. Corsi's a goalie coach, you know. Did you know that?
Yeah.
I know him. I didn't even know there was a Corsi stat until this year. But Jason Chamovich, our Vice President of Public Relations Communications in Springfield, he is a stats geek, so he would love to get more involved in that sort of thing. And I expect that I think most people who are diehard sports fans are they connect with stats, they connect with that kind of thing, and trying to analyze the game and understand it in a better way. So as that begins to unfold in hockey in a more meaningful way, I'm sure we'll try to be a part of that and participate in it.